Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great beginning to your new week out there so far. I know it's Monday. It's not everyone's favorite day of the week. It certainly isn't mine, but I'm feeling pretty good this morning, so I hope you guys are too. But we got a lot to cover in this morning's video. The first thing we'll talk about is today's severe weather threat, which we really need to watch out for. We have a pretty decent tornado risk across areas of the Appalachian Mountains, but it also extends west into the Ohio Valley and also east into portions of the Mid-Atlantic. So we'll speak on this first. We'll discuss the outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, and then we'll break it down state by state. We'll cover states like Ohio, Kentucky, obviously West Virginia, PA, Maryland, and VA. So we'll do that, break it down for you folks, discuss some parameters, and then we'll switch gears and we'll talk about what's to come as we get later into this work week, into this weekend. We already have some slight risk up for like Thursday and Friday. I think there'll be more that gets extended into the weekend, like Saturday, Sunday, maybe all the way into early next week. I just think what I'm trying to say is I really think we're going to inch closer to a more active period of severe weather as we get deeper into the second half of April. So we'll discuss the pattern, how it's going to flip and all that, and then we'll round the video off with today's forecast and then a Bible devotion at the very end if you guys are interested in that. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. It's definitely a slower time for my channel, and I've learned to just be okay with that. You know, there was a time earlier in my YouTube journey where it would tear my nerves up that my videos weren't getting any views. Now it's not like, I don't want to say the words I don't care, but it's just not as big of a deal to me. I know that people are going to tune in when they want, when they can, and I really appreciate people who continue to tune in even in those slower times. You guys truly are the foundation of my channel, so thank you so much. But if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below, and you guys know the deal. I'll get caught up with all the comments from over the weekend this afternoon like I typically do. So let's get rocking and rolling. So this is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. We have a slight risk in the yellow, level 2 out of 5, and in the dark green, that's a level 1 out of 5, what we call a marginal risk. So slight risk almost includes the entire state of West Virginia. A couple areas are in the marginal risk, but most of the state, level 2 out of 5 risk. Southern Ohio, level 2 out of 5. A good chunk of Kentucky, central areas, and all of eastern, especially really northeastern areas of the state of Kentucky. Goes all the way into northern VA, a little bit more VA now included in this compared to yesterday's outlook. The slight risk does extend all the way into the DC, just about to Baltimore now. Yesterday, you guys were just in the marginal risk, so we got that. Southwestern areas of PA, you guys are in that slight risk too. Then, of course, like I said, we got the marginal risk, level 2, level 1 out of 5 that extends around it. So what's driving this? Let's speak on the tornado outlook first. I know this is pretty small on your screen. I'm going to actually zoom into this here in a second. But that brown area you see, which Charleston right in the middle of that, Elkins, places like that, you have a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. That green area is a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. Now, this information could change, guys. Right now, just a slight risk. So we could get a bump up to another category, to an enhanced risk. I don't anticipate that. I don't expect it, but it could happen. So I always want to throw that out there. But a closer look at the tornado outlook for West Virginia especially. Charleston, Huntington, Elkins, Clarksburg, 5% risk of a tornado today. And then, of course, you see the green area. That is a 2% risk of a tornado. But did just want to zoom into this area. As you can tell, portions of that 5% area does extend to the far southern tip of Ohio, very small section of northeastern Kentucky, very, very small section, very, very small section here of VA. So we got this, and then we look at the wind outlook. If you live in this yellow area, this is where you have a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in any given location. And then the hail outlook, it's about the same. It's really what's driving the entire slight risk area. This is, if you live in that yellow area, it's where you have a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger within 25 miles in a given location. Let's break it down state by state. So let's speak on Ohio. I know it's just the far southeast section of the state, but I do want to show you guys. I think a lot of the state of Ohio will be okay today, but we're going to start off around 3 p.m. right up here. Okay, we get into 4 p.m., 5 p.m., then literally between 3 and 5 p.m., the atmosphere just gets primed for strong to severe storms. So as you can tell, strong to severe thunderstorms down here south of Lancaster, Cincinnati, Columbus, over up to Cleveland. South of that area is where we need to really watch for severe weather. Kind of north and northwest of that area, I think you guys will be okay today, but I wouldn't rule out a strong to severe storm. But you continue to move forward here, and then the storms really get more mature, grow up scale, get stronger, and start to really get into the state of West Virginia, northeastern Kentucky at this point. So, at 6 p.m., they're their strongest, but they're starting to leave the state. But you could have a quick tornado, some damaging wind gusts, and some large hail down here in the southeastern southern counties of Ohio today. But by the time you start to get into 7, 8 o'clock, it's pretty much done. More calm, stable air moves in. So it's really it's almost like just a 4-hour period in southeastern portions of the state. But please be aware, this is 4 p.m., not a whole lot going on. Storms are just starting to get going. And then, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it's pretty much done. But storms could fire a little bit further north, a little bit earlier, and they could hang around a little bit later. Remember, this is just model guidance. This isn't telling us exactly what's going to happen. We don't have a time machine. We don't know 100% what's going to happen. This is just guidance. Now, Kentucky, and this also is going to show Tennessee. Storm coverage has increased for this area compared to like what we looked at yesterday, but this is 2 p.m. Remember, time frame is up here. 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 4 p.m. we start to get some storms, kind of south of Cincinnati down to the Lexington area. And then we get into 5 p.m. This looks like a pretty strong storm if this is where it fires off at. 5 p.m., very, very strong storm, kind of east to southeast of Cincinnati, hanging out around the Kentucky, Ohio line here. We continue to get going here. We're probably going to have some showers and storms develop as far southwest as Bowling Green down into western areas of Tennessee also. I just think they'll lack that high-end severity level, if you will. So we start to get into 7 p.m., 8 p.m. We're going to have some storms cruising kind of south, very slow, because you lack a little bit more flow in the atmosphere in this area. So kind of a stagnant airflow to really get these storms moving. But we got to watch a corridor of storms, certainly in central, south central, southeast areas of Kentucky. This is 9 p.m. This is 10 p.m., 11 p.m. If we can get this going, midnight. And we could certainly have some storms around, but I don't think these are going to be anything crazy to worry about. But just want to note there will be some storms around, and it'll just be hard for these storms to kind of hurry up and move because the cold front is progressing so slowly to the south. It's going to move, but because it's not a fast-moving cold front, these storms have a hard time kind of just moving in and moving out. They kind of hang out around the same areas throughout the evening. But I would really watch out earlier in the day, really in, I would say, northeast areas of Kentucky. These are when the storms are going to be the strongest, the most severe, kind of in this area, I would say right here of Kentucky. Just be aware. This is where the worst storms are most likely going to be today. But can't rule out a strong to severe storm elsewhere also. West Virginia, this is definitely going to be the highlighted state. We'll start off around 3 p.m. today. We get to 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Not a whole lot going on. Those strong to severe storms we just discussed in Ohio start to inch closer to the western border. And we get to 6 p.m. Storms are starting to slam Parkersburg. They're getting close to like Huntington. And then we get into 7 p.m. And this is when the storms can really be popping off in West Virginia. At this point, they're starting to get closer to Charleston area. It could be right over Charleston. Remember, this isn't exact. This is 7 p.m. And if you're wondering what this kind of weird circular thing is coming off some of these cells, that is where this model is indicating stronger updrafts, the potential for rotating updrafts, and this is where we could have all hazards, tornadoes, hail, wind, etc. But the storms move in. It looks like just kind of a one sweep through, honestly. But down here, this is where they can be kind of supercell in nature. We got some storms that could really produce some tornadoes from Huntington to Charleston to Elkins, guys. And this is right where you had that 5% risk. It was at 8 p.m., right? Sun's starting to get low, starting to set. These storms could be producing tornadoes. I don't even think we're going to get a tornado outbreak or anything like that. But listen, these storms have the look to them. This is 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., some nasty storms rumbling through West Virginia. 9 p.m., they're still packing a punch. Starting to move into areas of the Mid-Atlantic, getting east of the Apps. And listen, I mean, even in like southern and kind of southeastern areas of West Virginia, these storms are still producing. And by the time you get into 10 p.m., everything south of the Elkins, Charleston area starting to hit Beckley. I think they lose some steam. And by the time we're in midnight, I think the severe weather threat is completely done. But just to kind of go through this one more time, this is 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. So it's really midnight. So it's really like a mid-afternoon through late evening type event for West Virginia. So be aware of this, guys. These storms will be kind of moving in from the west northwest and sweeping through the state after that. So PA, most of the state of Pennsylvania should be okay, but we could get a strong to severe storm that fires kind of in Jamestown, New York, just south of Erie, between Erie and Grove City. This could pack a punch, maybe some hail with this. And we're going to have some strong to severe storms, most likely cruising through the southern counties of PA today. But we could have some pop-up showers and storms as far north as Binghamton, New York, all the way through central PA. We could get a strong to severe storm through Harrisburg around 9, 10 o'clock. And we could get some storms that hit Philadelphia and eventually move into New Jersey. But, this will start to move in kind of around rush hour. So this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then midnight tonight. Well, it's 1 a.m. But, yeah, so the Mid-Atlantic, this is an area where I think the severe weather chances have increased. So this includes all of Maryland, Delaware, and the northern half of VA. So this is 7 p.m. Nothing really going on. You're thinking, well, what's up with this risk of severe weather maybe? But, western areas of Maryland begins to get hit with some showers and storms. And then, obviously you can tell that the coverage begins to become more widespread. Hagerstown, Winchester, Frederick, Harrisonburg. I'm sorry. I've done that a couple times, messing up that town in VA. Charlottesville, you guys are starting to get some storm activity. Could have a lightning show with this line of storms that moves out of West Virginia. And then this is 10 p.m. Could get some strong to severe storms blasting through the D.C. and Baltimore area, give or take an hour around 10 p.m. These storms look pretty intense down here in the northern half of VA. Charlottesville over to Fredericksburg. I mean, they are definitely going to have the capability of producing frequent lightning, damaging winds, some hail, and even a tornado threat. You can tell that there's still some strong updrafts. And by the time we're at 11 p.m., some storms could begin to affect the Tidewater, Delaware, Dover, Wilmington. And then they start to move into southern areas of Virginia around midnight. And just to cover that area, here they come. Here comes those storms. And this is around 11 p.m. You got storms getting close to Richmond, Roanoke, if not hitting them. And then we got strong to severe storms in southwestern VA. And eventually the storms try to get all the way into Virginia Beach, but it looks like they really weaken around midnight points after. So this is the area I'm really concerned about, West Virginia. I mean, I think the updraft Felicity swath, this indicates stronger updrafts, which indicates where you have more intense storms, rotation, and maybe a tornado. So, you see those highlighted colors centered right over West Virginia and portions of surrounding states. And I think the updraft Felicity swath nails exactly where they have the 5% risk of tornadoes. I think this makes sense. And this is definitely going to be an issue today. And I think we're going to have multiple tornado warnings. Let's hope we don't. But, I mean, you can tell where the highest tornado threat will most likely be today with the slashes of color. And then the wind threat, let's look at that too. It picks up on a couple stronger areas in these storms. So, you got pockets of 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts. I'll circle a couple areas, show some strong wind gusts into VA. Obviously, so strong wind gusts into West Virginia, even down here into southwest VA, even some stronger winds into the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. So definitely going to get some strong gusty winds with these today. So be aware of that. And just listen, just take this tornado threat serious in West Virginia today and surrounding states. So moving forward, guys, I'm going to skip a few days ahead. This is Thursday's outlook. And if you don't know where we are at, this is Iowa and areas of Nebraska, northern Missouri, and then Illinois. This is with this slight risk for Thursday. This coming Thursday is technically still day 4, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. So this includes Des Moines, Omaha, Lincoln, St. Joseph, Kirksville, over to Davenport. So level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather already for day 4. And then we look at day 5, and this is where we have a much larger area covered. So We have a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather stretching from Detroit, Lansing, Kalamazoo, Chicago, all the way down to Abilene, almost San Angelo, but Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Norman, Springfield, Fort Smith, Fayetteville, St. Louis, Quincy, and a good chunk of Illinois and all of the northern half of Indiana, including Indianapolis, all the way up to Toledo, included into this. So all we know is there's a 15% risk of any severe weather within 25 miles in a given location. That's all we know right now. I want to mention this. Also, day 6, day 7 is, right now there is no slight risk, but one thing I want to know, it says, but areas will probably be needed in later outlooks. It says predictability for a 15% highlight remains too low Saturday and Sunday during the weekend, but areas will probably be needed in later outlooks. Guidance has trended neutral to slightly weaker with more confined potential on Saturday. So they're basically still trying to highlight the area, but there's going to be severe weather over the weekend also, I do believe. So what's driving this? Well, let's simplify this compared to yesterday morning's video because I just went a little bit too detailed. So I'll show you kinematics and then thermodynamics. So we can show really everything on the 500 millibar kind of chart here, the wind flow. So this is your pattern starting off tomorrow afternoon. One thing I want you to note here is you see these little flags right here, like you see this one. You see how the little flag portion of this is wind barb is what we call it, is pointing this way. So it's pointing to the northwest. That means the flow is coming out of that direction at about 18,000 feet up in the air. This is 500 millibars. So basically your wind flow, and this is kind of a great thing you look at as far as your pattern, is coming out of this way. So flow is coming like this and then shooting off like that. This is your pattern for tomorrow, is that cold front, this trough digs down. So what does that mean? Well, this flow does not support severe weather. It's because your flow is basically going against the Gulf, the lower latitudes. So this is pushing any kind of warm, especially Gulf, but lower latitude moist air and kind of keeping it down here. Okay, so you basically just have a flow pushing that and keeping it suppressed down to the south. So normally when you have a trough like this in the central and eastern U.S., it's really going to prevent any significant severe weather events. Now, we're getting the severe weather today, but this is because this entire trough is still pushing south. So the flow will kind of be more like here. So this is actually going to create enough flow right into this region for some strong and severe weather activity. So let's not get too deeply into the details because I will. But we start to get into, Wednesday. You see how the pattern begins to change. So you see this big dip in the jet right here begins to shift off into the Atlantic. Okay, so all of a sudden things begin to change. And we do get a little bit of a split flow. So we start to get into Thursday, which is a severe weather day. So you stop it right here. Okay, looks totally different now, right? So if I put my cursor over this purple area, this is where you have your most wind flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere. In this case, on this run of the Euro, it's 60, 65, 70 knots, just over interstate speed at about 18,000 feet up in the air, give or take a few thousand. But at this point now, you see your flow kind of going like this. Remember, look at those wind barbs. Here's a wind barb right here. It's everywhere, right? So at this point, your flow is doing like this. And it's kind of going like this and then shooting across the country. So what does that mean? Well, that means you're starting to get more flow coming out the south. Now, it isn't like an extreme pool of flow out the south, but it's enough to get enough of that warm, moist air getting pulled back up into the lower 40. One thing you also have is a ridge of high pressure, but you really can't see the reflection of the current around this ridge of high pressure in the upper levels, which I have pulled up here. You see that more so in the lower levels, and we speak a lot more on that when we're breaking down steering currents of like the tropics, hurricanes, tropical storms. But you have, well, I wouldn't say it's right there. You have a ridge of, I'm everywhere right now, ridge of high pressure kind of down here. So we actually have flow in the lower levels kind of pumping up that warm, moist air out in the Gulf from the south to the north also. So you kind of have two currents that are working together to pull back up that area of moist air further north is what I'm trying to say. So we're kind of mixing kinematics with thermodynamics in this conversation too, even though we're really speaking on the kinematics, your wind flow right here. But in general, the pattern begins to support But in general, what you look at here is there's tons of flow now being propelled over the entire lower 48 from the southwest. So this helps to get enough wind energy, forcing mechanism to get these thunderstorms going. And with all the moist air kind of surging to the north, you have the overlapping ingredients for severe weather. And, as you start to get into Friday, you can see that even more. This is Friday afternoon. I mean, you have just a straight shot of southwesterly flow right over the middle of the country. Winds are shooting out the southwest in the upper levels. So you're certainly going to get at least energy, and you're going to get storms ongoing, and especially if you get any little shortwave pieces of energy, going around this jet street going across the middle of the country, which you normally do. So this is definitely enough flow to get it going. And then you start to get kind of past Friday, you get into Saturday, and it continues. It just gets kind of iffy once you get into Saturday. You looks like you might have some sort of trough beginning to eject, but you got plenty of flow going across the the south central U.S. There probably will be a chance of strong to severe storms in the south central U.S. like Texas, Oklahoma, Saturday. And then Sunday, something we got to watch here, across the Mississippi Valley, west or east of it. Is there going to be a strong to severe thunderstorm risk in those same areas that's been getting hit a lot? We got to watch. And then with dew points, even though we kind of discussed that already, but this is where you're really going to get a good kind of understanding of how, this moisture does get pulled north with the response of that flow shifting gears. Right now, it's being pushed against the Gulf right now, right? As the pattern shifts, it'll start to get pulled out of the south to the north. Therefore, a lot of moisture will begin to build north. So we start this off Wednesday morning, a lot of calm, stable air over most of the country. I mean, we have a little bit of moisture down here in southern areas of Texas, but dew points in the 30s and 40s. That's very dry air. Storms don't like that. But as you continue to move this forward here, we get into Wednesday afternoon. You're starting to see more green on your map. We get all the way into Thursday, which is going to be a severe weather day across portions of the Midwest. We got this area of dew points all the way into the 50s, even some 60s all the way up into the Midwest. So that's enough moisture to get the job done. You're starting to see that steady surge of moist air to the north because of the switching in of the currents in the atmosphere. It's starting to come more out the south rather than getting pushed down from north to the south. It's more so south to north. So moist air rising out of the lower latitudes, especially out the Gulf, with that high pressure kind of centered around the southern states. So we get into Friday, even deeper moisture, and there's kind of that boundary. There's going to be some sort of cold front. But look at this kind of area, a huge area of dew points all the way into the 60s, extending all the way up into almost like Detroit, Chicago. So dew points in the 60s, certainly supportive enough moisture-wise to get these strong to severe storms going thermodynamic-wise. And then we start to get into Saturday and Sunday, and it gets a little iffy. We got to figure out the details of this, but what we can tell you is there's tons of moisture for the southern states to get these strong to severe storms going. But is there any energy kind of going over this area? A lot of features we got to watch, and then we get into Sunday and tons of moisture surging all the way up into the Midwest. We get into next Monday, and then it's pretty much full send ahead next week with tons of moisture hanging out across areas of the central, the southern, even eastern U.S. We got dew points widespread into the 60s. It just gets kind of everywhere. But I do think next week we're going to have multiple days, maybe several days of severe weather chances, just purely based off how much moisture is really building across really the southern tier of the country. Obviously not southwestern, you got the desert air, but you get what I'm saying, this area right here. And of course, with the moisture on average building here, you're going to get the rise in Cape levels, and that's what you're seeing here. We get into Thursday, there's your spike in Cape levels, storm energy. And then we get into Friday, there's your avenue of storm energy all the way up to Chicago, into the Great Lakes region, all the way down to Texas. We get Cape levels well over 1,000 joules per kilogram for a pretty widespread area. And then we get into that Saturday mark. What's it going to be? All we can say is there is an area of storm energy right down here. And then we get into Sunday, same thing. And then it's full send ahead next week. Who knows what's going to happen? Could be some could be some bigger severe weather days. And if we look at this as far as the surface, guys, this is Thursday. We can see just splotches of green and yellow and orange and red right here. We're not in range of the short range model guidance, so we can't really look at the structure of these storms, but in general, it shows the idea of storms right in here. And then we get into Friday, boom, you see all the storms that fire up right into here. See those storms? Kind of just splotches of different colors, but it tells us that the pattern is there. It's a great representation of what we're seeing as far as all the other ingredients and how it matches up well with just kind of surface reflection on this particular run. And then we start to get into like Saturday and Sunday, and it shows storms for sure, especially in Texas and Oklahoma. But it does show storms all the way through the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, into the Mid-Atlantic also. And then we get into Sunday, could be a bigger severe weather threat. But you see all those, colors across areas of Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana down there. Could have a piece of energy fully ejecting across the country. And then we just got to continue to watch next week. But as far as today's weather, moving into that, let's get this going again. We got little energy kind of going across the middle of the country. We got cold air filtering down behind this upper low, so we're going to get some heavy snow potentially falling across areas in northeast Minnesota, the UP of Michigan, later this afternoon to this evening. And we got an area of rain going across areas of PA and New York. But outside of that, nothing too crazy right now. Things will go downhill in areas that I mentioned earlier in the video across West Virginia, Ohio Valley, etc. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We got some winter storm warnings up for the western UP, some winter weather advisories in the purple, red flag warnings across Nebraska and surrounding states, and some wind advisories in the kind of that tan brown color. So we've already discussed severe weather, but there is a general risk of thunderstorms across the Midwest into the plains also, and then the Great Lakes region, but we've already talked about this right here. So excessive rainfall outlook there is a marginal risk, 5% risk of flash flooding occurring across West Virginia today. So be aware of that, but I don't think the flooding threat's going to be too severe at all. The southeast, a pretty nice day. We're warming up. We'll have a brief spike in warmth across the southeast today before another cold front cools us down for most of the rest of the work week until about Thursday and Friday when we begin to warm up again with a ridge building in place. But we get into this evening, we could have some showers. Maybe all the way back to Arkansas, but the storms will really be centered to the north that we just spoke on. But moving forward here, we get into tomorrow morning. Certainly not a whole lot going on. Pretty quiet conditions that we're waking up to. Maybe some showers around. The northeast, quiet start to your morning besides those showers. We've already spoke on the storms to the southwest that you see popping up on your screen. But, we could get a shower storm as far north as, maybe central New York. But, we'll get some showers that'll cruise across New York City, Long Island later tonight, later this evening, across Connecticut. Some, heavier burst of rain is certainly possible. Even some rain up in Vermont, New Hampshire. Too warm for snow or anything like that. Some cold air is going to filter back in. We could get some more interior New England and Northeast snow. Waking up tomorrow morning to just splotches of shower activity around. So, South Central U.S., another quiet day. Nothing to speak on whatsoever besides those showers in Arkansas, maybe Mississippi and Alabama and Louisiana. So, it's a quiet day. Enjoy your weather. Up here in the north central U.S., we get this wraparound flow. Cold air begins to move in behind this low, and we're going to start to get some snow flying around northeast Minnesota again, and the UP of Michigan. Could get heavy later tonight. This is getting into the middle of the night. We got some pretty heavy wet snow flying around across northern Wisconsin, the UP, and eventually this will wrap all the way down into lower Michigan for tomorrow morning. Could have some flakes flying around, and I think it'll begin to wrap up by tomorrow evening. But snowfall expected. Seagull Lake, maybe 1 to 4 inches of snow. Hurley, 6 to 10. Duluth, maybe a trace, maybe an inch. But this is how much you're expecting in this area. Then the UP of Michigan, I'll let you look at that for a minute. Marquette, 2 to 4 inches of wet snow. Republic, you just cannot fully escape it up here. I think he got into the 50s or something over the last couple of days up here, but definitely some heavy wet snow will fall. Some areas could get over a half a foot depending on where you live. Heck, some areas could get over 8 inches, but even down here near Gaylord in lower Michigan, 3 to 5 inches of snow expected. So, I just realized I did not have the western U.S. pulled up, so let's do that. All right. today's weather across the western U.S. is pretty chill. Not a whole lot going on at all. We could have just some of those showers in the Dakotas, but there's not a whole lot going on out west. So enjoy your weather. Temperatures, there's that big spike in warmth today. I mean, it could hit 60 degrees in Boston. It'll be nice and warm just with those storms in the Ohio Valley and Appalachian Mountains. But the southeast, 80s. So a nice spike in warmth. It's cooling back down across the middle of the country, but not too bad. I mean, it's not crazy cold. But the western U.S. is warming up nicely with a ridge building in place. So nice temperatures there. So let's go on and back it up to this. We're going to do our Bible devotion now. We are in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8 through 9. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8 through 9. Be sober-minded, be alert. Your adversary, the devil, is prowling. Gotta flip pages here. Is prowling around like a roaring lion, looking for anyone he can devour. Resist him, firm in the faith, knowing that the same kind of sufferings are being experienced by your fellow believers throughout the world. Satan, the devil's always trying to come after our weaknesses. Whether we're in a weak time in life or whether we're in a strong time in life, whether things are going great, whether they're going bad. Of course, when they're going bad, our weaknesses probably reflect to the surface a lot more than when things are going good. You probably have less patience. You're easy to get frustrated, to anger. We're all human. I'm the same way, guys. It's just, it's just human emotion. So, my thing I would say is that, when you can feel yourself getting irritated and getting upset, that's when, Satan's going to try to creep in and he's going to try taking advantage of that. He's like this dude that just, hangs out in the shadows and just waits for a weak spot. He's just a coward. That's what he does. And he's gonna a lot of times wait until you're at your weakest point and then, throw doubts in your mind. He's just going to get you when you're at your weakest. Now he'll come after when you're strong too. Just because, when you're saved, you're a believer doesn't mean that you're exempt from being tempted. I think we all know that as believers of Christ, but just know that and just recognize it. Try to slow things down in the moment. That's what I do, and I still fail at it sometimes. A lot of times, we're all sinners. But try to fight back, fight the good fight. You're none of us are exempt from the struggles, and he's going to try to come in and make it seem a lot worse than what it really is. And listen, if you mess up and you end up handling things or handling something in a way that you shouldn't have, don't get discouraged, because he'll take advantage of that too. He'll come in and make you just feel like crap about it. But just know that, we're not perfect. We strive to be the best that we can, but we're not going to ever be perfect. So don't get discouraged if you let yourself down. If you set a goal for yourself, for example, and you fail to follow through with it, just pick yourself up and try again. And just know that, like it says in Scripture, other people out there are struggling with this too. So, keep going. And when you give up, that's when, like I said, he's sitting over there in the corner in the shadows laughing at you. And he's just a coward. That's what he does. And that's how I view it. Maybe that's the first way you ever heard it been viewed, but that's what I say. He's just a coward, just chilling in the corner, trying to poke fun of you. He's only more than likely going to come at you when you're at your weakest. Not saying, like I said, he ain't going to come at you when you're strong, because he will. He'll tempt you, but that's just what he does. So, just acknowledge it in the moment. Don't react in a way you shouldn't. And, if I had a great question, because I posted this on X, my social media platform, this morning. I had a great question. How do you get better with not falling to the temptation? And to me, it's an easy answer. You constantly strive to strengthen your relationship with Christ. The more you do that, the more the armor of God really takes in effect. And you do that by going to church, being involved, surrounding yourself by Christ-like, positive-minded people, and just continuing, wake up early, get in the Word, do a devotion, continue to renew your mind through Christ. So that's all I got, guys. This video was a tough one to get through. I had to stop it multiple times. Maybe people noticed, maybe they didn't. But I actually had to stop this video multiple times, and it's actually in 3 different sections. Been having a hard time getting rhythm. I think I've told you guys before that I'm better when things are busier, because I just feel like I'm in a nice flow of routine of things. When it's kind of slow like this, I have a hard time with flow throughout the video. And a lot of people will say in the comments, Mitch, stop It's not me apologizing, guys. It's just me talking to you guys. You know, I am hard on myself, but I'm a healthy hard on myself, if that makes any sense. So if you've noticed just lack of flow in the videos, me rambling, that's another thing that I do really bad, is I kind of ramble when I'm getting off track. But you know, we do this every single day. That's never going to be perfect, and I know that 99.99 whatever percent of you guys certainly understand that. But like I said in the beginning of the video, appreciate the people who continue to tune in. I need to go live and just do a life update. I don't think I've done that in about a month and a half. Just kind of update you guys on what's been going on. But life, you know, has just been really chill for me and my family right now. You know, soccer's finally over. So, you know, it just feels like it's been full steam ahead for a few months, you know, with the business of winter, with covering that on YouTube. But, you know, things are starting to slow down now, and all that good stuff. But appreciate y'all. Appreciate this family atmosphere and this YouTube channel, and you guys as my family. So God bless y'all. Have a wonderful day. Make Monday great, and I'll talk to you in the morning.